Okay, first of all, good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's wonderful for us all to be here. That's step one, for sure it is. May you all be blessed. I just want to say, because sometimes I see a video and I have no idea when it was made. So I wanted to just note that today is September 23rd of 2024. It's Chaf Be'elul 5784, and we have been declared orange. What does orange mean? It means that there are certain restrictions that have been imposed on the city by the Pikuda Orif. That's the organization that Home Front Command. Exactly. Thank you. That looks, sort of tries to help us out and keep us supposedly secure and safe. But the first level of security and safety comes from what? It comes from a choice. We have a choice to be optimistic and ask Hashem for his help in all situations, and particularly now, particularly in this situation, where we can make the choice for the good, which is the absence of doubt, for bitachon, that's the good, for trust in Hashem. We have that choice, and we can exercise it. And with the greatest strength that we can muster, again, relying on God. So I've been trying to find a source for why it is that people are seemingly prefer to believe the bad. Why do they do that? So I've been looking around, and I come with a couple of things. Okay, Kiddushin 30b. That's a Gemara. Okay, a person's evil inclination, which again will turn us to doubt, will turn us to sadness, will turn us to fear, etc., renews itself against him every day. Every day. Only evil all day, it says. And Rabbi Shimon ben Levi said, a person's evil inclination overcomes him each day and seeks to kill him. That's the translation I have here. And if not for the Holy One, blessed be he, who assists him, he would not overcome it. So with Hashem's help, we can overcome. We have that choice to do it. Okay, so let's move on a little bit further. Okay, so let's see. How do we make that? A lot of papers here. That's okay. So I'm not going to read them all. How do we? Oh, I just want a couple more quotes. Okay. Many Hasidic masters, including the Baal Shem Tov, spoke about how doubt and confusion, thank you, are the tools of the evil inclination to prevent a person from serving Hashem wholeheartedly. Just keep that in mind. Now, what happens? One other source, interestingly enough, is from a psychologist who wrote an article, which was a very, very popular article in terms of Google's ratings. And it titled the article, "Bad is Stronger Than Good." We should know this, just realize it. The greater power of bad events over good ones, sounds just like our Gemara, is found in everyday events, major life events, close relationship outcomes, social network patterns, interpersonal interactions, and learning processes. Bad emotions, bad parents, and bad feedback have more impact than good ones, and so on and so forth. And it goes on and on. So if we needed it, not that we needed it, but we have it, validation from outside. Okay, so now, what can we do? Oh, and one of my favorite rabbis on the internet, Rabbi Moss, talks about darkness has a power that surpasses light. But again, it's a choice. It's not an inevitable outcome. It's a choice that we have to choose the light, to choose life, okay? To choose good. So keeping that in mind, taking a look, okay? I looked at, now many of you may be familiar with this, and if you are, so it'll be a review. Rav Dessler, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, who wrote Michtav Me'Eliyahu, has a whole section on Bechira, on choice. And what does he say? First of all, he starts with an example, one that I unfortunately am familiar with, and I'll divert a little bit to explain that, how much in thought too. he says an example of choice. So you have a person who smokes a lot until he reaches a place where he gets up in the middle of the night with chest pain. Okay. So he says to himself, oh, this is not good. I don't want this chest pain. I really need to stop smoking. Okay, I'm stopping smoking. Familiar to anybody? Just the rest, not because you're smoking, but because we decide that we're not going to do this negative thing anymore. We're not going to harm our health. By the way, taking good care of our health is another mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. So the person says to himself, no more, not good. So what happens? He wakes up in the morning, and little by little, the chest pain fades, which it will happily sometimes. And by the middle of the day, he's not feeling it anymore. So what happens? He says to himself, I could just have one cigarette. That won't cause any problem. I'll just have that one cigarette. And he does. And it doesn't for that moment cause a problem. Moving right along, he says, the one cigarette didn't bother me. It didn't hurt me. I'll have another cigarette. And by the time he gets to the evening, he's had a few cigarettes. And that night, lo and behold, he has chest pain again. So he goes to the same routine. He says, no more cigarettes. That's it. I'm done. I'm finished. So what happens? So what does that mean? Rav Dessler says he had before him these two desires. One, the pleasure of smoking. And two, the pleasure of being free from the pain of chest pains and other things that come out of it, right? So I'll divert for a small story. I, unfortunately, years ago, before I made tshuva, smoked. I smoked rather heavily. But I didn't smoke. Baruch Hashem, reached the point in my tshuva process, I was definitely not smoking on Shabbos. So I had a friend whose daughter was a young woman, 16 or 17, and she had COPD. And she knew I smoked, but I didn't smoke in front of her. So she said, you smoke and I have COPD? And I said, well, I don't smoke in front of you. Ridiculous. So it's a lung disease. Okay. So thank you for asking. So she looked at me, she gave me a look, and then I realized what the message was for me. I don't know what she meant by it. I assumed she meant this. And I took the message as, how dare I take the gift of my good health and tear it up and throw it in the garbage? Well, once I realized that was God's help. I said, I'm not going to do this again. And I decided that I quit. Now, I had quit before. I had quit in the past just like this fellow in the example. I quit. And then I got to a place where, well, maybe one cigarette just won't hurt me. And so I'll take a cigarette. And that was the end of it, because I smoked again. This time it worked. Thank God. This time I said, I can't do this. I made tshuva. I'm fixing a lot of things in my life, in my existence, and I can't do this to Hashem. I can't throw his gift in his face. So what happens? I come into work, and I work with a judge, and we would sit sometimes in chambers, him with his cigars and me with my cigarette, talking about cases. You couldn't even breathe in there. And so I said, okay. I said to him, and his name was Caesar, by the way, believe it or not, the judge, very nice man. I said, Caesar, I don't think I'm stopping smoking. I quit. He said, oh, okay, you're a very kind person, but I needed to do something with my mouth and with my hands. I knew I needed to do something. So my friend taught me how to crochet, and with my mouth, I was chewing on boxer fruit. That's St. John's bread. You know how that is. Okay. And he kind of looked over me as I was chewing and knitting and chewing and knitting and talking. But in 3 days, Baruch Hashem, all the body has feelings, of course, and the body feels things that the soul doesn't want it to feel, but can't help it. But in 3 days, I was done. And I never picked up another cigarette, not because of me, because I felt this connection with Hashem, and he helped me. And I believe that's what Rav Dessler is saying here in his own example, of course. So moving out of the example, yes.
How long ago was that?
This was Baruch Hashem. Let's see, 1992, 1993. I made tshuva 1992. And that was it forever. And let me tell you something, it's a very difficult Yetzer Hara to break, because the pleasure side of it is very substantial, etc. So
I know, because I've done it a lot of times, so I just.
I love you. But okay, so moving along with Rav Dessler, I don't want to, how much, I have 5 more minutes? I could go a little, oh, no, thank you very much. Okay, so, what does Rav Dessler say? He said, we understand that a person can sort of remove himself from the truth. Like me, all the years, I just said just one cigarette. The fellow in the example who said, well, my chest pain doesn't hurt me anymore. We can ignore the truth. We can remove ourselves from the truth, an obvious truth, and grasp what? Grasp a falsehood, an obvious falsehood. And that's the Yetzer Hara. It's so strong because it makes arguments that are so, it's part of us. It makes arguments that are so compelling that it doesn't allow us to look at the obvious falsehood. And so he says what? He says, what can cause a person to do that, to grasp onto a falsehood? What causes him to do it? And Rav Dessler says something interesting. He said it isn't his conflicting desires. He wants to make this point very clearly. It's not the two desires that are fighting back and forth that cause him to choose one or the other. He said it's the person himself. He says this over and over in different ways. We have the power to make the choice. Without any doubt, he says, it's absolutely certain. He said it's translation, but he said the same thing in Hebrew. It's absolutely certain that the person himself causes this, can change this. So, this choice, he said, I'm repeating it, but I think it's important to hear this a few times, is only dependent on the person making the choice. There's no other cause or rationale. And it's well known to the person who, in one area, whatever it is, has overcome his Yetzer Hara. The person who manages to, whatever that Yetzer Hara is, each one different, the person who manages to succeed against it will realize that there's a me inside me that isn't connected to the dark side of the light side. The me inside me is connected to Hashem. And the me inside me really does has a choice. And you know, that cigarette quitting thing that I did, it still comforts me and allows me to realize, not because of the cigarettes, it's gone, but it allows me to realize that I can do this. Yeah. For example, today, all of us, those of us who are here today, had to make a choice. Are we going to go out? Are we going to ignore the orange warnings? Are we going to? This is a choice, and with, I assume, great bitachon and courage, yes, courage from Hashem, that we all got here, Baruch Hashem, safely, by the way, safely. So just as a mention that all of these things in today's life, all of the people who talk to us, all the people who ask us, why are you still there? Why are you still in Tzfat? I mean, I'm sure many of us have this experience of people trying to convince them, people from the States or relatives even from here, why are you still here? But we have that choice, you see. We don't have to be moved or touched by any of this stuff. We can believe with emunah shlema that Hashem is here protecting us, and what happens is what's supposed to happen by Him for the good. That's part of the emunah, for the good. It's not random chas v'shalom. It's not to punish us chas v'shalom. It's for our good. Oh, we may not see it that way. We may not have the chance to see it that way at the moment, but that's where the emunah comes in. Emunah, and then bitachon, trust. That's where it comes from. It comes from our willingness to believe that what Hashem is doing is good. And I know I'm repeating myself. You know something? It's kedai to hear it over and over again because we're living this every single day. That's why I mentioned this day. Okay, so what if he says, okay. Okay, so now he's going to talk about what many of us may be familiar with. Time. Okay, I'm being given a note about time. Subtle note.
Try subtle.
I just want to, okay, let me just say this bad line thing. Where do we have this Bechira choice? Very quickly, we have the Bechira choice at the point where the territory that the good has, so to speak, conquered. None of us here presumably going to break Shabbos. And where the
intentionally.
Yes, intentionally. Good point. Thank you. Very good point. Beautiful. Yes. True. But in exactly knowingly and intentionally. But so that's a line that we've already, the Yetzer Tov is already conquered. But above that line, where the Yetzer Hara still is in sway, well, now you may have sort of negligent breaking of Shabbos, or you may have other things within the Shabbos halachas that we're not so concerned about. So the battle line is over there, but that's where the choice lies. That's where we have an opportunity to exercise our choice. And with that, I'm just gonna, one more tiny thing here, which I thought would be very, very helpful. Okay, find it. This is Rabbi Morse again. Appreciate him, from Australia. Darkness has a power that, I'm sorry, Rabbi Morse, Aaron Morse, exactly. Get his email. Darkness has a power that surpasses light. Negative forces are more energetic than the forces of good. Okay, but that's one rule. He said, but here's the second rule. Darkness is only there for the light to become stronger. When we face bad times and don't fall, when we stare darkness in the eye and keep our faith, we not only survive, we grow. The power that the darkness once had becomes ours, and we turn the negative energy into positive. This gives us a strength that good experiences can't offer. And with that, I'll say, I wish us all, yes, peacefulness, achdut, togetherness, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not only, but a little light spells a lot.
That's a,
So that's a very important.
oh, yes,
thing to remember.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely, 100%. That's the idea of just one time overcoming your Sahara. That's your life.
Well, thank you very much. Very, now we can go on. Okay, so we've been doing the laws of Ben Adam L'Chavero, the mitzvahs that have to do with interpersonal interactions. Okay, and today we're going to talk about do not take revenge and do not bear a grudge, which is lo sikom and lo hitor. Okay. All right. So this nice book always starts with a little story. Dina says, Shira, could you lend me your Chumash notebook fast? I forgot that there was going to be a test today, and I got all confused and I didn't review. And let me just take your notebook and I'm just going to review it very quickly. And Shira says, "You're such a scatterbrain, like it's not my problem. You didn't prepare. Too bad." A few days later, a few days later, Shira goes over to Dina and says, I heard that you have this killer outline for history. I have so much trouble with history. Would you mind lending me your outline for history just for this period? So what could she respond? What could Shira? I mixed them up. What could Dina's response be? Well, I wanted to borrow your notebook, and you wouldn't lend me your notebook. And so I'm not going to give you my notebook. That could be one response, but that's not the proper response. Or she could say, I'll lend you my notebook because I'm not like you, who is a stingy person and holds back a notebook. So that's another response. Okay, so we understand that that this issue of bearing grudges and taking revenge, it's an essential part of people getting along. Many machlokas, many of the conflicts that exist in the world or exist within our communities come from the fact that one person does something and somebody can't just overlook it. Somebody has to, somebody just says, and it's really quite hard. There's a certain, I think you can understand, there's a certain pleasure in well, you were mean to me, now I'm going to be mean to you. But we're told, we're given these mitzvahs. Hashem says in Vayikra, it says, do not take revenge. And it says, do not bear a grudge. Very simple. Lo sikum, the lo titor. Okay, very, very, very simple. And sometimes it's very hard, especially I think the grudge part is quite hard. But the fact that Hashem made it as a mitzvah proves to us that it's possible to do, right? We wouldn't be given in a mitzvah that it was an impossible emotion, an impossible thing to feel. So, but the fact that that we have this, we know that it is absolutely possible to do.
But it's only an interpersonal relationship. It's not like you're talking about where our enemy's trying to kill us and we don't want revenge. And I mean, that's a whole other thing.
Right, that's right. We're talking about interpersonal.
It's not to only to have great connections. We shall not have great in our heart.
You're right. You're right.
It
Let me-
destroys us.
Oh.
It destroys us. And I was listening to Rabbi Falk, he said, do only what you show.
Right.
Read what you said about that. Even give them whatever we have, even forgive it to you in joy. Like this and that, it double means.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so what's the definition? Let me just go on a little bit. You can go ahead.
Real quick. I find the easiest way to do this, because it's very hard not to hold a grudge, is if you remember, if you judge someone else, you put yourself into the dock.
Very good.
Everything that you did is now
Being judged.
held against you.
Right. That's big. That's big. Okay.
But
All right. So what is the definition of Nikima? What does it mean to be? Okay. So we have another example, right? Reuben goes to Shimon. Can I borrow your drill? Shimon says no. 2 days later, Shimon wants to borrow the lawnmower, and Reuben says no. Now, you're not obligated. There's no halacha that says that you absolutely must lend to somebody whatever they want. There's a dozen reasons why you could legitimately say no. You know that I need it today. I'm mowing my lawn today. I know that every time he borrows something, it comes back wrecked. There's reasons that are legitimate. But the one reason that you cannot have is because he did that to me. He wouldn't lend me his drill. Excuse me. I hear it, so it's distracting. Sorry. So you wouldn't lend me your drill, so I'm doing this to you. So that's the definition of doing something, to like a tit for tat kind of thing. Okay, now, and what is the meaning of netira, of bearing a grudge? So Reuben says, fine, okay, I'll give it to you, but I'm not a terrible person like you, and I'm gonna give it to you with a full heart, and I'm giving it to you. But obviously, so he's worked on himself, right? He's not carrying this grudge. Right? He's not doing revenge, but he hasn't really quite cleaned it up in his heart. And certainly, I think everybody would agree that really the bigger problem, the harder job, is about your feelings. It's to clean up your feelings, and that might not be something that you can do immediately. So sometimes you could do. It might take some time. It might take some thinking about it. It might take some working about it. Karen's good suggestion. Like just remember you're being judged. Well, what happens if you're judging somebody else? It's so you have to work until you get to the place, because this is what you're obligated to do. You get to the place where you're giving to this person full-heartedly with simcha, no bad feelings towards them. It's definitely,
but
it's a level. It's a high level.
that's right, it is a level, and the thing is, I think one thing is that if the person asks you and you had said no to him, or however it is, and he's asking you, so the fact that you do the action of, yes, here, take it, even though you haven't gotten to that place in your heart, where you're completely full, okay, you did the action.
It's a level.
So you still have to work, and it is a level. You have to
That's
work
right.
yourself. It's okay,
That's
but you did the thing, you did.
But you're not obligated, to my understanding, you're not obligated to like that person and want that person to have to be in your life. You could be.
Depends on the circumstances. It's not completely true what you're saying. As far as let me just go on, okay? Because there's not that much time, and I want to cover some material.
10 more pages.
I this whole book to get through, and I can't. Okay, so who does this mitzvah apply? and for some people, like to be in that situation with a family member, it's okay, sorry. This is how we were brought up. I say I'm sorry, you say you're sorry, and we just move on. For other people, it's very difficult to say something to a family, and to a perfect stranger. They have no problem, like ridding themselves of these negative feelings. But the fact is that it applies to men and women and children. And children have to be educated from a very young age that that they have to that they can't do things, act out of revenge. So it applies to everybody. It doesn't necessarily apply to an akum. Okay, it doesn't apply to other halakha categories. But okay, we're not going to get into that. But even so, even if you're allowed to not forgive somebody who has done evil to you, it's not necessarily good for you in your heart, to carry around hatred. I mean, so listen, a lot of people are trying to hurt us right now. Do I hate them?
But that's not on a personal level. There's a whole difference on a personal level versus
Correct. Correct.
Person.
But the fact is that the question is, what does carrying around bad feelings towards another person do to you? What does that cause? How does that sort of twist and corrupt, your view of the world? Okay. What if somebody owes you money? Do you have to forgive them? You can get your money back. You're allowed to get your money back. That's the halacha. You shouldn't be angry at them because they haven't given you. You can't like torture them because they haven't given you money back. But you can reasonably expect your money. On the other hand, if it's a very small, insignificant amount of money, there's nothing wrong with saying, I'll let the 10 shekels go. It's like really not such a big deal. It says one of the reasons why Yerushalayim was destroyed is because people were so exacting. You owe me 2 agarot, and I'm not moving from the spot till you give me my 2 agarot.
But give me 1 second. If somebody owe you little money, you can also forget about. You can say, okay, I want to make the TV. So person is not, see what I mean?
You can forget about it. You don't have to.
I just want to tell myself, I want this money as a gift to the person.
Okay,
It's not guilty.
Okay.
Pain, so
Okay. Okay.
Right, but is it considered a grudge if you don't lend them money again?
Yes.
And again and again and again.
How many times do they have to
Okay. Okay, it depends. Every one of these questions come back to what's in your heart. Okay, and that's what Chazal says. How do you feel about it? Are you saying no because you know that this person is like not a good risk? Okay, I lent the money. Like I know somebody that lend the money time after time after time. They return it with not with interest, but they return it on time. I'm very happy to lend that person money. And somebody else, it's like every single time, it's like a sipur, and then they keep telling me I'm gonna bring it, and I mean, like just forget, it's just easier, just leave me be. But you don't want to run to that person the next time. But are you saying? So the question was, are you saying no because you're begrudging them? You're angry at them for not giving you money the last time, or are you saying no because they're a bad risk? Listen, there's nothing that says that a person has to be a shmata, right? Somebody is hitting you. Like this is for a kid. The kid goes to school. Somebody's hitting this kid every day. Does your kid have to stand there and take it? So they have to be the victim and be hit. So can you train a young child to okay, you can defend yourself, but you're not doing it because you're taking revenge. He hit me, so I'm hitting. He hit me first, so I'm hitting him. That's not the way. You're hitting them because there's no other way of stopping them from hurting you.
Judy, what a lot of people taught me, if somebody wants to borrow money from you, they have to put a receipt. Because I remember I was
You have to write it on a piece of paper.
A lot of trouble, but they want to borrow 100 shekels. So I write a receipt. Ilana, I don't need a receipt. No, it's halal. I need to write a receipt.
Right.
So I don't want your receipt. No. So this is important to write a receipt when somebody more borrowed money. It's a halal.
Yeah, Ilana.
If you forgive them completely,
the money. Like, because if it's up on the money, it's not.
Right.
So when they want to come give it back to you,
Mhm.
you have to tell them. that they
Oh.
don't owe you.
Right,
Because they don't owe you.
right.
So at that point, so
Okay.
if you give it up, if you say, you know what, I could give them, if they don't give it back, I still want the money back, you haven't given up on the money. But if you say, I've given up on the money, I don't expect to see it anymore, and it's not yours
Okay.
anymore.
Okay.
And therefore, when it did that, you have to state it, you have to say it's not mine.
Okay. All right, just one other halacha that interesting, the person who is not allowed to like forgive somebody hurting them is a Talmid Chacham. Why? Because that person is not responding as a private person. That person represents Torah. So when somebody has publicly shamed you, and somebody has publicly or hasn't even privately has insulted you repeatedly, you don't have the right, to say, well, I don't care. No, you do care. You can't talk to somebody who represents Torah that way. Okay. Also, I'll just end with this story. One time, Rabbanit Cook was she has her things once a week, and she speaks publicly, and it's very high charged, and so she's speaking, and one woman started screaming at her. You're a Russia, you're a this, you're a that. She's like in front of her, all of her people, hundreds of people are sitting there, and she's absolutely screaming at her. And Rabbanit Cook stands there silent. I mean, it's a big busha, right? Like, can you imagine the shame of being in that situation? And Rabbanit Cook just quiet. And then when the woman stops speaking, she says, "Where's Rachel Bas Shendel? Rachel Bas Shendel." And then Rachel Bas Shendel, like, very shyly stands up, and she said, "You should be blessed to have children, and you should be right." And within a year, she had a baby. So the it's a person who she had been dominating. So she took the merit of not being angry, not being resentful, not bearing a grudge. She took that and she made that into a bracha for someone and used it in that person.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's it.
So,
Wow.
And if you don't respond
right.
in that situation,
Right.
at that moment,
Right.
you are given kohod.
No.
Wow.
Okay, so we just to like quickly review, and then you could speak, Leah.
Wow.
Quickly review, to go through life like carrying around stuff. I mean, everybody, people, you get hurt. People get hurt. I mean, it's someone did something to you, someone said something to you. It's a terrible thing. They apologize. Why carry it around? Who does it hurt? Ultimately, who does it hurt? So our job, and according to the Torah, is that you have to work on yourself to forgive a person and to rid your heart of those negative feelings. Okay, Leah, what did you want to say?
It's a recipe how to not keep the grudge.
Okay.
If something happened to you, find 10 reasons this person did something wrong to you. This person was upset. Something person was sick. Something happened to this person.
10 excuses for that.
One
Good.
person did something to you, and it relieve grudge. You have compassion instead of grudge.
Okay, very good. Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. That is it. That is all. What? It's not announcement. I have an announcement. You could have an announcement. You want to say your announcement? I have my.
No. It's, what announcement I usually make.
Okay, this is, okay, let me just.
We didn't put the box, there's box for. Bas Medrash.
Medrash.
It's there, but the box for soldiers is not, and guess what? Hoffman is still cooking. It's not gonna be Yehuda's Mizrach. It's gonna be Torah cooking.
Wow.
It's more easy for Bas Medrash.
Okay.
You don't have to even remember, and the Hoffman, even though they're not related.
Okay, here's the box.
Mine.
Okay, so there's this box for Bas Medrash dues, and and there's this box, this can for the food for soldiers.
Also, I'm sorry, I want to make a public teshuva. We were talking here during
Judy.
Judy speaking, and I have to apologize, but the reason was, there was Gelba with the payat, in the black coat, and the soldier without yarmulke, with the huge automatic weapon, walking around and checking security of this place. And then they went behind you in the
I
section.
saw that, I saw that.
And it was so beautiful. And I said, my goodness, look at that. And Karen said, that's all we need. Hashem
Yeah.
and idea for protection.
Okay. All right, I don't forgive you, sorry. Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Okay, so today we have all of our regular classes at 10 o'clock and at 11 o'clock. At 12:30, Shoshi is going to be continuing her series on a tour of tshuva using Tanakh, characters from Tanakh. Okay, so the next thing, the upcoming event, okay, tshuva boot camp. Okay, which is on Tuesday, October 8th, which is Bob Tishrei. Thank you, Tova, for here. Thank you, Tova made this beautiful, even though she's not here, she made this beautiful flyer. So you're welcome to take some and give them to your friends. I also sent it out on the WhatsApp group.
Can you imagine? She is here. It's just my
Oh,
video.
good.
She is
Oh,
here.
good. Anyway, so the event, it's, it's kind of the tshuva event. Well, it's not I guess Yom Kippur is the tshuva event, but the tshuva learning event of the season. And it's a community-wide event. And so whoever hasn't been there, it's an amazing experience, 12 hours straight of learning. And we need your help. So here's a sheet. If you want to help with food preparation, be very much appreciated. If you want to, and you speak to Dina and sign your name. If you want to help with registration, where's Bina? Okay, you can sign your name and also, okay, and also set up. So so we need your help for this event. Okay, I think that's the end of my announcements. Yes.
Yes, I'd like to introduce these organizers all the way from HR.
Wow.
Judy, Mary was our top one, and Lana Trotman has some input in this year, and they're 100 shekels each. I'll lay them over here if you want. Got Shabbat candlelighting times and a lot of things for the whole year. And I have a bag here. I want to put there 100 shekels. We have 2 different covers this year. I'll set them over here.
They're great. This is mine, and it got me organized. Everything is in here, not that purse and that pocket and that shelf and that drawer. It's all in here. Everything I need. So you guys, you buy, so you have these plus, you put in all these quotes up to serve Hashem with simcha and to be strong and to love each other. It's just, it's like, it's just living the life. This is great. It's pretty. Purple.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else have anything? Okay, let's go learn some Chumash. Let's go learn some Chumash. Let's go learn some Chumash.